Welcome to the Plainfield-Guilford Township Public Library's presentation of Plainfield, Indiana, then and now. First off, the early days. In 1820, pioneers from Guilford County, North Carolina settled in the White Lick Creek area south of Plainfield and north of Mooresville. They named their new township Guilford after their former home in North Carolina. In the mid-1830s, the actual town of Plainfield was laid out by Levi Jessup and Elias Hadley. Some important dates to look at. On September 5th, 1835, the Plainfield Post Office was established with David Worth as the postmaster. In 1839, Plainfield was incorporated as a town. However, it's important to note that the town couldn't get a government going, so they abandoned the incorporation in favor of township government. It wasn't until May 16, 1904 that Plainfield voters voted again in favor of incorporation, and it was no landslide, with 190 voting in favor and 129 voting against. Now, on to the fun stuff, the photos. And this gentleman you see here is a photographer. His name was Moses Tomlinson, and he is responsible for some of the photos you will see. First up, the HIS building. The HIS building once occupied the northwest corner of Main and Center Streets. It had a very interesting beginning, being built by Isaac Osborne sometime in the 1840s. He used the building for his trade as a carpenter, supplying the community with everything from cradles to coffins. His son-in-law continued the family business of carpentry, specializing in the coffin making, which worked out well for his own son, Osborne's grandson, William Hiss, seen here, and the cause of it being called the Hiss building. William Hiss had a mortuary in the building. In 1904, the entire east side of the building was used to store the coffins for the mortuary. In 1926, the west half of the building became a Kroger grocery store. Kroger later moved a few doors to the east on Main Street. George and Daisy Edick purchased the building in August 1943 and moved the Plainfield Messenger operations, which had been housed in the Masonic building across the street, into it. That lasted until 1964, when the paper was purchased and operations were moved elsewhere. On July 27, 1965, the Plainfield Board of Trustees bought the HIS building and its lot for the site of the new police and town offices. The old HIS building was razed in the spring of 1966, and the new town hall was built in 1967. Located at 210 West Main Street, Howard Christopher's Auto Livery is just west of the HIS building, which we just looked at. In this photo, Howard Christopher is standing with his daughter, Mary Louise. It may be too small to see, but there are signs to show he is selling Red Crown gasoline and Indian gasoline. The front sign says, "Storage for tourists, taxi and rent cars, service day and night." His business evolved into a wrecking service. An interesting story about Howard Christopher is that he owned a chimpanzee. The chimp would ride with him on his wrecker, and as soon as he stopped, the chimp would hop down and help with the cable and hooks. There was a newspaper article in the Plainfield Messenger which told of him getting the chimp, and a local resident remembered the chimp helping with the wrecking jobs. That was the site that the Plainfield Chamber of Commerce occupied before its recent move to the First National Bank building. And now it's a parking lot as construction goes on around it. Remember the Kroger grocery store that moved from the HIS building to a few doors east? Well, this is where it went. This is the north side of Main Street at Center Street. Stratford's drugstore is on the corner, then the Kroger grocery store, another store, and then Plainfield Variety Store. This was taken around November 1944. Note that the stoplight is on the curb in front of the drugstore, near where the delivery man is stepping down. And here is a more recent photo of the north side of Main Street. Originally built around 1855, the building located at 104 East Main Street on the northeast corner of Main and Vine Streets has housed many businesses, most of them hotels. It was originally known as the Commercial Hotel. The hotel was remodeled in 1915, at which time a heating plant was installed along with modern appliances. The 26-room hotel also got a new name, the HENDRIX Hotel. Eventually, it became the Van Buren Hotel. Later on, the Plainfield Post Office moved to this location and occupied the front corner spot. You can see the post office box right outside the door. And it is where headquarters Barbershop is located today. The southwest corner of Main and East Streets has a long and varied history. It was originally home to the Tomlinson family, including Moses Tomlinson, who owned a photography gallery in Plainfield. Next, the spot at 119 East Main was home to Adna Moon's Standard Service gas station. Moon leased his station in 1925, and in September 1937, Standard built a new and improved building, seen at the bottom here. The design of the station architecture is reminiscent of the Art Deco style. The new station was made of ivory porcelain, enamel, and plate glass, and was trimmed in red and blue. On January 6, 1938, the Plainfield Messenger reported that, quote, "The new station is of ultra-modern design, and one of the few of this design to be erected in Indiana thus far." In 1971, the Quaker Car Wash opened at that location. And today, Dairyland stands on that corner. Just next door to the west, this photo was taken of members of the Friday Club in front of Mother BALCH'S house, probably in the very early 1900s. Later, this was the site of the bus terminal, offering bus service to Indianapolis, as shown in this 1944 photo. The brick terminal was later replaced by the Trailways bus garage, seen in this early 1970s photo. Bus service stopped in 1975, and the building is now the Quaker Laundromat. The HANNA & Son livery stable was built around 1867 for use specifically as a livery barn and was never used for anything else. John Hanna purchased the barn for $810 in 1900 from the estate of Harlan Hadley. He sold it 12 years later. The library board bought the property from John Hanna for $2,800, quite a profit, and tore down the barn to build the Carnegie Library, which opened in January 1913. This was actually the third library building in Plainfield, the first one being a rented room on Main Street, more on that shortly, and the second a purpose-built building at 130 North Vine, which is now a house. After the library moved to its current location on Stafford Road, Richard and Andrew Simmons purchased the old Carnegie building and remodeled it into a home and business office. Currently, the building houses the Triangle Fraternity, a social and academic organization for architects, engineers, and scientists. Here we see the West Hill of Plainfield, Indiana, around the time of the Civil War. US 40, also called the National Road, is a dirt road. The white fence on the left borders what would become the Indiana Boys School property. The white fence on the right is next to the John Morgan House, the brick house on the hill. An advertisement for a dry goods store is painted on the boards on the right side of the photo, near the front. The house is still there, although the fence is long gone and the road is paved. Here is a view in the opposite direction, from Morgan's Hill looking east, toward Plainfield, across White Lick Creek and the covered bridge that crossed it. And the same view today with a much more modern bridge. As mentioned before, the first library in Plainfield was in a rented room in a small building on Main Street on a lot at East and Main. This building later housed Dr. J.C. Stafford and a steam laundry. Later, this northwest corner of US 40 and East Street was the site of the Sinclair gas station. First run by Paul Hardin, the station was taken over in February 1941 by Charles Springer and renamed Springer's Sinclair Station. The station sat on the site that previously housed the first Plainfield Public Library, as well as Dr. J.C. Stafford's medical office, Oris Jordan's tailor shop, and the Green Teapot restaurant. Today, the Paw Street Bakery is in that location, as well as the Two Chicks Whiskey Business Bakery. West Main Street. Although this address no longer exists, this house doubled as a business. It is seen here as the Augustus Krebs Senior Home, where he ran a boot and shoe store on the east side of the building. Previously, this was the home to the T.H. Barnes Harness Shop. Later, the Plainfield Fire Department was located in the same spot on the south side of West Main, between Center and Mill Streets. The building was built in the 1930s and originally had a mechanic's garage in it. In 1948, Carlos Swinford, who was Plainfield's second fire chief, Swinfield Park was named after him, moved the fire department to this location. Before then, the town hall and fire department had been located on South Vine Street. Here is the fire department in 1985. And today, that spot is a parking lot. The Sanitary Grocery opened on September 30th, 1911 and was owned by G.F. Calvert and his son. The store was originally located near 117 South Vine Street in the old Red Man's Hall, which no longer exists. The store moved 1 block north to the southeast corner of Vine and Main. This photo from 1911 shows Fred Calvert, Oscar Kantner, Todd Calvert, and Orla Johnson in their delivery wagon. On that same spot at Vine and Main Street, we see the Busy Bee Cafe, located at 101 East Main Street, here in 1934. This photograph is the outside of the Busy Bee, with owner Mr. A.C. Willis standing in front. Mr. Willis sold the store to Jesse Chrisman in 1939. Over the years, the restaurant changed hands and names many times. Today, you might recognize the same corner facade in the entrance to Floor Fashions. This is Central Academy, a private secondary school owned and operated by the Western Yearly Meeting of Friends. This building was built in 1882. The school burned down in 1906 from a fire started in a stove on the second floor. Fortunately, there were no serious injuries, and The school was rebuilt the same year. After the academy closed, the building was used by the Guilford Township High School until it was condemned. And a new building was erected in 1931 on the same site, and classes were held here until 1958 when a new high school was built on Stafford Road. Today, the building, with many changes, houses Central Elementary. This is 104 West Main Street. Many different businesses have occupied this building, including Moses Tomlinson's photography gallery, which you see here. I'm not sure what the guys in front of the building are doing, but I love the guy on the balcony to the side just hanging out. Later, in the 20th century, Simons Hardware was in this spot. They sold a variety of products, including paint, stoves, furniture, auto parts, and appliances. Charles Simons arrived in Plainfield in 1916 and opened his first store across the street in the Masonic Building. He moved to this location, also known as the Cope Building, and after his death, his son LaRue Simons took over. There is one rather interesting story connected with the Simons Hardware, and that is that a murder took place in their building. LaRue Simons was murdered by an employee who had been working for him only for a brief time. And here is a current photo of 104 West Main Street, the Cope or the Simons Building. The Plainfield Mill was a grain and flour mill that operated on what is now North Mill Street. Built around 1889, the Plainfield Mill was a 50-barrel mill that handled grain from area farmers. The structure was torn down in 1958 to make way for the construction of a new post office, which was itself replaced by the structure on Carr Road. Now the building is occupied by a machine and tool business. First National Bank opened in 1903 in Plainfield at 121 West Main. You may or may not recognize the building. Here's an ad from the 1904 Plainfield Progress newspaper announcing that they are open and ready for business. No account too small or too large to receive courteous and careful attention. It notes their fireproof safe. Here's the same location today. If you compare the window placement and the brick columns, you can see elements of the original within the remodeled look of today. Now take a look at the Masonic Building on the corner to the right of it. This photo is probably from the 1930s and shows Morris's Cafe on the lower level. The stoplight is on the curb, and you can see the original bank building on the left. The Plainfield Lodge number 653 was chartered in May 1904, and in 1915 they constructed this Masonic Building. Look at the chicken dinners advertised for 60 cents in the window. And here it is today. Public service came to Plainfield in January 1951. This aerial shows their campus in that year. The stores along US 40 are just being built. You can see Simmons Street and Carr Road. See the house with the red arrow pointing to it at Carr Road and US 40? The house is not there today as the gas station is on the corner. But the house didn't disappear. It moved. Here's the same house today on Kentucky Avenue. And speaking of aerial photos, here's downtown Plainfield in 1958. You can see Joe Knopf Ford, the HIS building, and the water tower in the distance on the left. Here's downtown Plainfield in 1975. In the center of the picture, you'll see the bank with the curved drive-up window, as well as the Knights of Pythias building. Here's a 1998 aerial photo of Plainfield. The Friends Church is prominently displayed at the front. We have many photos of Plainfield through history in our collections. Feel free to visit the library in person or check out our online database of photos. Thank you for watching.